Hey there, I'm Ken. This is Canadian Retro Things. Welcome. It is time to upgrade my Apple IIgs. My Apple IIgs was one of the first computers that I owned back in the 80s. It was the one I owned right after my first Coco computer. And yeah, it has a special place in my heart. I played a lot of games and everything else on it. And now I'm going to upgrade this with some more memory and a card that will allow me to have kind of a hard drive on it. Something that I have never had on an Apple IIgs. So, yeah, it's a pretty simple process. We'll get that all set up and then we'll take a look at what I will now be able to play with on my Apple IIgs. But first, before we jump into that, I have to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay, where you can have PCBs printed starting at only $5 for 10 boards. Are you ready to take your project to the next level? Try diving into the future of prototyping with PCBWay's state-of-the-art 3D printing services. Whether you're crafting intricate models or robust functional parts, their diverse range of materials and advanced technologies ensure your designs are realized with exceptional accuracy. From rapid prototyping to small batch production, their 3D printing solutions are tailored to meet your unique needs. So why not try PCBWay today by visiting www.pcbway.com and prototype the easy way. All right, we have here my Apple IIgs. It's open. You can see it is completely bare bones inside here. And you may be able to tell from the board layout that this is an early revision. So let's turn it on and take a look at it. You can see version 1, that's RAM version 1 at the bottom there behind that stupid SCART input thing. So we'll go into the control panel here. And if we look at the RAM disk, we will see that we have 84K in use and 171K free. Now there must be a rounding error there because that's only 255K. It should be 256. And what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be using this here, which is an A2 Pico. And I'm going to be using it as a hard drive. But because I've only got that very, very limited amount of RAM, I'm first going to have to put a RAM expander into it. Alright, so as we can see, this computer has 7 slots here and 1 slot here. They are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. This here is the RAM expansion slot. Right here we have the RAM expansion card, obviously way smaller than the ones from the old days that would have taken up all the way back to here. But it's got a little silk screen on there saying towards the rear. So it goes in this way because this is the front of the computer here. So it just slots in. And now we're ready to turn it on and take a look. There we go. We can enter the control panel. Now when we look at the RAM disk, we can see that we have 8,235K free. So we are going to put in a RAM disk here. There are some Apple IIgs programs that take advantage of a RAM disk. So if it has space, it'll put those into the RAM disk, put the program into the RAM disk, which will allow it to load a lot faster. So we'll put in just over 2,000K there, still leaving us with plenty of room there, so that should be saved. So now the next thing that we have to do is just to prepare it for the other card that I have. We have to take a look at slots and make sure that slot 7 is set to your card. The other one is Apple Talk that it can be, but we want it for your card. And now when we boot it up, it's still not going to boot anything, but we've got enough RAM in there to add the other card. And now that it's had a chance to actually boot once, it's now showing that the RAM disk size is 2048, and I now have 6185K free still, so they're more than enough to run anything I need to on this Apple IIgs. Now, if you look at this, you can see right there it says keyboard. Well, there's no keyboard on this. Matter of fact, my keyboard's back over this way, but actually the keyboard should be at the front of the computer, so that's basically what it means, is that that goes to the front. So we are putting this into slot 7, and we are going to be using this as a hard drive. So if we're going to use this as a hard drive, we have to make a hard drive image on an SD card for it. So let's do that. Now before we get into preparing that SD card for my A2 Pico, I'll show you where I picked it up. So here is Joe's Computer Museum on the internet. This is where I got it from. So if you're interested in buying one of these yourself, you just go down to the Apple IIgs, and it's the A2 Pico multifunction card. So this is not only good for being a hard drive like I'm using it, it's a universal peripheral card. There's a lot that you can do with it. I am personally using it for mass storage. So if you're ordering it, you go down and you want the A2 RetroNet mass storage. If you have one and it's got other firmware on it and you need to get the firmware for that, then you can just go over to the GitHub page here for Oliver Schmidt, and he's got the project here, and it also gives you a little bit of instructions on how to actually use it. So let's get to getting that SD card ready. So here we go. We've got the SD card inserted. Nothing on it, but one thing to make sure before you do this is format it as a FAT32 device. And it is formatted, so now we can open it. Now I've got a couple of hard drive images here. So first we're going to use this one right here. And it's currently called Share 6. That's just something that I named it. I've got a few different hard drive images here. And it's a .po file. Now you got to make sure it's a .po file. You can see I've got some here that are HDV files. That's a hard drive file, and PO is ProDOS files. So you can actually just change the HDV to PO and that works fine. So the one thing for naming is that it must be drive 1, all lowercase, and that will be the boot drive. And you can put a second drive on here as a secondary hard drive. So I'm going to do that right now just to save a step. And I have here the Total Replay hard drive image. You may know that if you're a fan of the Apple. We'll get into what that is in a couple of minutes, but we have to rename that as Drive 2. As I said, it has to be a ProDOS file. So PO. So now we take that out, And we stick it into the A2 Pico, and we're ready to load it. Okay, we are ready. Now the SD card reader is at the top here. SD card goes in. Now, one of the good things is it does have a connector here that you can connect up to your computer while you're loading it, and then you can live load and put images on the SD card if you want. So now if I boot this up, it should boot into my drive 1. The light is on, that's a good sign. And there we go. Welcome to 2GS System 6.0.1. And that reminds me, this is not going to be working for me if I don't have a mouse. And I don't have a mouse for my Apple 2GS, but good thing I do have my mouse for my LC475. This mouse works fine with my Apple 2GS. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to take it over and plug it into my Apple 2GS. Now, one of the problems I think with this being the hard drive is that it doesn't work quite as quickly as an actual hard drive would. But it allows me to use this System 6.0.1 software, so. And there we go. It is just about all booted up. It's reading the RAM disk drive, or the RAM drive that I included, the 2K. It's reading. It could be reading 2 disk drives. I've got it automatically set to read for disk drives. I don't have any hooked up right now, but it's also got the hard drive and the Total Replay hard drive that I loaded in there as drive 1 and drive 2. So we open up drive 1 and we see it's the system, all of that, ProDOS basic system. The reason that I wanted to have this one on here is because it's got this shareware games file. If we open that up, I'm in the process of fighting with a cat not to rub itself up against my camera while I'm recording this. We've got a ton of shareware games. $88 items in here, so there's 88 shareware games. Now what I want to do is open up the Total Replay hard drive. So as you can see between these two, I've got a ton of different games. I've got 88 different shareware games, and then I've got the Total Replay games. If you don't know what the Total Replay games are, it's a hard drive image that I will load up right now and show you what it is. You may have seen this many times on channels like Adrian's Digital Basement. He often uses this when he's testing out Apple computers. So as you can see, it is just absolutely filled with games to play. So between these two hard drives, I have a ton of games to play. But that original hard drive is not the one I want to use. I'm going to load up a different hard drive on here and show you. I've made a custom one in an emulator that has a lot more stuff on it than this, the one that I have. So let's load that up. Okay, we can now see that I have the game, the Apple IIgs running on my capture window there. And you can see that I've got it plugged in. It's plugged into my computer here. So that is the drive. It's coming up as a USB drive. So I want to put this Ken HDV in there. Now, unfortunately, the transfer speed here is really quite slow, so this will take a minute. There we go. Now we've got Ken HDV on there. So let's turn the Apple off. Change drive 1 to other drive, and change Ken to drive 1. Change it to a ProDOS drive. And now let's reboot. Now this will take significantly longer to load up because there's a lot more on this hard drive. And here it goes. It is now loading in all of the different programs that I have on here. It's taking significantly longer to do this because I've got a lot of programs on there. This is a fairly full, well done up drive. A lot of little extras, basically. And I got a nice little background of a cat. So yes, there is one game on here, other than the Total Replay, and that is Apple Bowl, which is a bowling game. But other than that, this one has a lot of little extras, like, for instance, auto menu, which is nice because it just pops down the menu when you go over it. You don't have to push, click, and hold, and you can change lots of things in the extras, and lots of things under the Apple menu here. How about we look about this Apple IIgs? Now I've never actually played with this 6.0.1 before, so this is all brand new to me. One thing that I do want to do is I want to see if I can take all of those shareware games and stick them over on this hard drive image, or as many of them as I can. So I've still got 27.1 megabytes free, and then I'll have a ton of games on here. Now the next thing we're going to look at is running a disk drive from here. So as you can see on the screen, there are no disk drives listed. So I will restart those. Normally I just don't have them because I don't use them with this, because most of the disks I have don't work with the 6.0.1. So open the utilities file. I have on here something called initmaster, so I can run that. And then I go up to extras and I load that up. And go over to the far icon here. And I've currently got Apple Disk Drives 5.25 deselected. So we will mark that. And okay. And now when I reboot this, I will have disk drives available to me. Now for a disk drive, I am using my floppy emu. So it's plugged into the back of the Apple IIgs here. So let's flip over to the screen that we have and take a look at that. And there we go. You can see that we have the RAM disk, the CAN drive, the 5.25 Apple disk, which is my floppy emu, and the total replay hard drive. And here you see U1. Now this is Ultima. You've got U1.system, which will run this game. This is actually one of the disks that I have that works with the 6.0.1 here. So all we have to do to run this is run the U1.system. It boots into Ultima 1, the first age of darkness, and I'm ready to play Ultima 1 on my Apple IIgs. No muss, no fuss, works great. However, that disc is a bit of a rarity of all of the games that I have on here that I normally play. So more often than not, you're getting discs like this one that aren't showing anything actually on the disc. Or if they do show programs on the discs, they're programs that won't load. And as you can see, there's two programs on here, Hello and Taipan. If I try running Taipan, it just gives me this information. If I try running Hello, it won't let me run it. So, something I have tried is running basic.system. Going PR number 5 to run it from the disk. But then I get a not a startup disk icon. I would actually love to know if the people that are more knowledgeable than me, if there's a way to actually get these disks working on System 6.0.1 there. But otherwise, you know, this isn't that bad. There we go. System 6.0.1 on my Apple IIgs is something I have never played with before until recently. Before I actually got it running on my Apple IIgs here, I was playing around with it in emulators. That's how I made that customized version of it with all the extra programs on it. I basically just watched a bunch of YouTube tutorials and figured out how to do that, so put on the programs that I thought would be kind of cool to have. And now I have all of those games on the A2 Pico there acting like a hard drive. There's other things I could do with that, but the hard drive is the main reason that I wanted to get it. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. And I've also got, of course, my floppy emu there with a bunch of games on it. I've even got original games on disc. So I don't think I'm going to run out of anything to play on my Apple IIgs for a very, very long time. All right, well, don't forget, if you want one of those A2 Picos, just head over to Joe's Museum. The link is in the description. The video's not sponsored. I just like the product. All right, so that is about everything I have to say about the Apple IIgs for today. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget that a like, a subscribe, and a comment below are all things that help the channel out a lot. And the other big announcement that I made recently is that I now have a Patreon. So if you're interested in supporting the channel through Patreon, check it out. The link is also in the description. All right, thanks a lot, and I will see you next time.